Hello everyone, welcome to the Femafricmaths channel. Today we are very excited about our interview. Like we said, we are going on a tour across Africa, and this time again we are in Northeast Africa, specifically in Sudan. We have our second guest from Sudan and who we are very privileged to have. So welcome Asma, and we'd like you to start by telling us about your journey from basic school to where you are now.
Hi, thank you very much for that introduction, Angela. I am Asmaa Umar and I am from Darfur, Sudan. I grew up in a town called Al Fashir. And my journey from basic school to where I am now is quite interesting. I started the school, basic school, very young when I was like 5 years old. My mom, she is a basic school teacher. And I was a bit of a naughty kid. I used to solve my mathematic questions and move around and solve for other kids. And at 5 years old, you wouldn't listen to anybody. So my mom used to give me more problems because she was a teacher, actually, a foundation teacher. And I used to do more solving and so on. And I actually did like the first year and the second year in 1 year. And then, things just get going. Getting to high school, I was always good at math. I don't need to study math to pass my exam. I usually use the time to study something else that I am worried about, which is quite funny. And it wasn't on my mind to study mathematics, to be honest. I wanted to study communication science, and I was more into um, getting into TV or radio section where I will be a managing director or something like that in those communication sciences. And I tried to get into one of those colleges and I get accepted, but for certain reasons I couldn't go. And my second option was, getting into mathematics. And I did, and I joined. And I found out, like, surprisingly, I'm quite good at it. And yeah, since then, I did my undergraduate at Nilan University in Sudan. Then I moved to South Africa, South Africa in Cape Town. I did my first master's, and then I moved to do my second master's at Stellenbosch University, and now I'm doing a PhD at Stellenbosch University as well.
Wow, wow. That's great. So you were great at doing mathematics from a young age, and but it was later on that you realized that, oh, okay, you're actually still good in maths, probably when you went to the university and afterwards, and you've continued with it. So I was listening to your journey. You mentioned your mom, like, and the role she played in who you have become now. So you mentioned the fact that she knew you were good at mathematics, right? So she kept on giving you a lot of work to do, maybe because you had too much time on your your sleeves to be
She
helping
wanna,
others.
yes.
Yeah, so tell us about some mentors that you've had and the influence they've had on shaping who you have become. So it could be your mom, it could be some teachers or people, personalities in your community who have really inspired or supported you on your journey.
I will stick with my mom. She was and is still my mentor in many ways. She's quite a strong woman. I lost my dad when I was 6 years old, and she had to take care of us as a single mother, five of us. And she was teaching in rural areas where doing the foundation phase. Um, and there actually she initiate the schools, like we go and they plan to make a school here, and teachers actually don't like to go because it's kind of very remote. And my mom, she was willing to do it with us, which is quite interesting. And then yeah, I guess so how she loved teaching and how she loved giving people the knowledge, like she tried the best to teach different ages. When you go and initiate a school, sometimes you find somebody is like 20 years old who is in the first class and they still need to just learn how to write. So just growing up, seeing her and walking into her steps and what she does, it was a great introduction to education in general. And I'm quite passionate actually about education and girls in particular in Sudan. So I would say my mom, she was the main influence
Yeah.
in where I am now.
Wow. So that leads me to my next question. So you were talking about how passionate you are about girls and women, the influence your mom was in giving a lot of young people, or even old people, access to education, access to reading, writing, right? So, are there any initiatives you are involved in to support women and girls, or do you have plans of doing similar things in your community in Darfur to support the study of mathematics, especially for girls?
I am in the process of initiating an organization. It's actually not related to mathematics because I think there is a good educational system for girls to study mathematics and do what they want to in general. But the issue is about, you know, using the computers, how you can be able to um, sorry,
No, it's
how
fine.
you
Mhm.
um, so when I was growing up, I wasn't able to use the computer until I get to the university. And that is what missing in my community, and actually missing in the girls community, especially because the community do not encourage, you know, girls to take certain routes in studying. So for example, studying mathematics was, you know, it wasn't my choice, but I did study it. And my family used to ask me like, when you graduate, what you will do? And my answer at that time, I was like, you know, teacher. And because I didn't know, and for them, even they didn't comprehend that how I will be a teacher, because it's not an educational college. It's just, you know, you study mathematical sciences. And, you know, once I get to learn more and more, I knew, you know, what I can do with mathematics. And then, you know, it pop up to me the idea of, you know, you can code, you can do programming, you can do a lot, you know, with your mathematical foundation and background to achieve a lot of projects and a lot of things around programming and mathematics. So my initiative is about teaching computer skills to girls in age, you know, between, I'm now like, you know, still in the phase of building. So in my mind, I will go from 15 to 35, and that include high school students and including university students, as well as, you know, fresh graduates and some people who just start to work, and mainly focusing on girls and women. Um, so yeah, I started very simple. I started with my actually sisters, and I'm moving a bit slowly, especially because I'm not there in Sudan. But I'm hoping when I go back, I will formally start the process.
Wow, that's very interesting. So, listening to you, we'd like to find out about your motivation. What drives you? It's not mandatory for you to give back to society, right? But you have that passion to give back to girls. Like you said, you've seen the importance of coding. Whilst you probably went to Ames, right? You saw the importance of coding, and even in your PhD, right? So you want to give this skill to young girls in Darfur, so that by the time they get to the stage, they are already competent in it. So our question is, what is your motivation for what you do? What drives you?
I wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to show girls that they can do it. You know, like there is no reason for you to be scared, and there is nothing associated with your gender being, you know, a male or a female. There is no role actually about a certain role that you can and you have to take because you are a female and you are a girl. And when I was growing up, I had many challenges, around me being a female, a girl, growing up in very tight community where there is a lot of things that you're not allowed to do. And one of them was me, like, I wasn't allowed to travel and do my studies in Khartoum, for example. And it was quite a challenging journey and difficult times for me. I had to convince my family to do it. And once I did it, I found out I was actually quite good at it, like being first top in your class. Um, Looking at that and then looking back when you think about how I did actually fight it for what I want to do and being able to be in this position. Okay. So yeah, it was very challenging to do, is to convince your family, the people who are very close to you, to support you doing what you want to do, achieving your dreams. And I know a lot of girls are in the same situation, where they're not allowed to do certain things because you are only a female, and because, the community do not support that, or your family do not support that. So I wouldn't say to you, like fight it and go against it, but try to convince your family, try to, sit and talk with them and, give them your views. And I know they, at the beginning will not listen to you, but you repeat it again and again and again and again. Do not give up. It's quite important that you don't give up. And yeah, once you have a clear goal, you sit and talk until, reach your goal. And that what drives me to, go and support females and women in general and girls to be able to do what they can do. Like you need to unlock your potential. There is a big huge potential in every single one, and to do unlock that is just by you know making critical decisions and have, different ideas and a different way of thinking. You do not constrain yourself in the community rules and the culture, and yeah, all those, um what I can say, constraints. You just learn how to overcome that and how to introduce new things to the community, to even to the girls community, because by you achieving something, you actually empowering somebody else behind you. um, so yeah, the issues that I've faced until I am here today is what is
It's what
encouraging me
drives
to
you.
yes.
Wow, that's interesting, right? So you've mentioned some challenges you face. Are there any other challenges you faced along your journey? It could be whilst you were in Darfur, it could be whilst you traveled. What challenges did you? It could be in terms of skills, maybe a skill you lacked when you traveled to Ames or even for your PhD. Are there any challenges you faced and how did you overcome those challenges? Because we want our audience to see, to learn from your experiences.
Many challenges, I can't even count them, like traveling from my small town to Khartoum, for example. It was completely different journey, being in a huge big city and being, in your own to do whatever you have to do to survive, to study, to achieve something. And basically, growing up in your family is completely different because things get done for you basically in at home, and then you have to do every single thing by yourself in that big city. That was a bit challenging, and I wasn't able to be open to talk about it to my family because it was my decision. It was my struggle to go. And if I sat to talk with them, that's, a completely different thing. Um, so yeah, that was my first challenge. But traveling to Ames, that was a huge challenge because I came to Ames. I do not know a lot about programming. We did study programming, but it was on paper. I did exam like for MATLAB and C++ on paper. They write to you the command and what the output. And to come here and do that in, using computers and seeing all these capabilities, it was quite challenging to just, go around and think like, oh, you can actually use the computer to achieve that. You don't need the pen and paper to do it. Um, the second challenge was the language. When I arrived at Ames, um, I wasn't able to communicate. I did know very little um, English. And it was a big challenge for me to understand the lessons, to understand the people. And yeah, but it was really great to be at AIMS to learn the language, because you hear different accents and different backgrounds and different, conversations between people. And that was a way for me to overcome the language challenge, to just push myself to go and actually chat with other people and learn from them. And they were very open, because they know, you don't speak English. They were very patient to just listen to what you want to say. I used to have, pen and paper with me and try to write whatever I hear that I do not understand. And I would go to translate afterward, or, ask somebody next to me if we were not in a class, or, not in a formal setting. So yeah, that was the second language I faced at AIMS, and moving to South Africa, moving, to completely different country, different community, and yeah, trying to survive and achieve what I dreamt of.
Wow, that's interesting. So we like to also find out. You said you're a PhD student, right? So at Ames, you learned how to code, right? And now you did your second master's at Stellenbosch, and you're now doing a PhD. Tell us a bit about your research in non-technical terms. So our audience from a wide background, so we would like them to be able to relate with what you do. So tell us in layman terms what your research is about. Yeah.
My research study is about looking at population dynamic. And when I say population is, either animals or plants, not human population. Usually people associate the word population with human. And I found it quite funny and interesting. But I mean, even me, I was doing the same. But my research is about finding out extinction rates, and by looking at the population dynamics, the demographic noise, and the environmental noise. We call them demographic and environmental stochasticity, and that means, the fluctuation between those variables, between seasons and so on. So scaling those differences and variations, try to see whether those populations would survive in what condition, and what difference we can make in order to make those populations survive. There is a lot of, critical and endangered species now. People try to save them, and my research is about studying the process, theoretically, how we can achieve that.
Oh, that's interesting. Unfortunately, our time is coming to an end. So we've been, yeah, I told you our second guest from Northeast. You are also our first guest from Darfur, right? So when you hear about the Darfur region in Sudan, there are a whole lot of stories that come in, right? But you are an icon that has come out from your community, and you are now here doing your PhD, right? Our aim is to inspire young girls about the different career options available when you study mathematics. Like you said, you saw your eyes open when you went to AIMS to see that there was more to mathematics than the pen and paper, right? There was more you could do, right? What about a child in Darfur who is listening to you? What would be your inspiring message to that child to encourage them that in spite of the challenges that they are facing, they can overcome? So what would be your message to them that will drive them to successes like you have achieved?
I will start by saying, everyone is unique. You would have your own journey. You will shape your own successes and failures. And my message is, learn to make critical decisions. That's the first message. And my second message would be challenge yourself and face the challenges and learn from the failure. Do not be scared to fail. Fail and do that again, like face it again and again and again until you succeed. And we learn more from failure than from success.
That's interesting. So, like, you started with everyone is unique, right? And you talk about the fact that yes, there will be challenges, right? But you also are defined by the challenges. The more you face the challenge, the more lessons you learn from it, right? And it makes you a better person. And shouldn't be afraid to own our decisions, right? Like you said, you had to convince your family, right? I'm sure it took a lot to convince your family to allow you
Took a
to
lot.
travel. Yes, to
Took
travel
about three
from
years to do that.
wow
Um, so
to
it's a
allow you.
long time.
Yeah, but you persevered, right? You didn't just give up, right? You kept on. You knew what you wanted. Your eyes were just on it, and even if you had to stay at home for 3 years, you were willing to make that sacrifice in order for you to be able to travel away from home for your university education. Wow, that's interesting. You look for
I
thanks. Yeah, sure. Just go.
sorry. I just wanted to say that I knew what I want to do, and the family was encouraging me to do something completely different that I didn't want it to do. So like, studying medicine, be a doctor, and so on. And that, I mean, now I am in a process of being a doctor, but in a different sense. So hopefully that's, solved. But yeah, in general, just I knew what I want to do and I worked toward, achieving what I want to do, no matter, if it was in my town or outside of my town, it is fine. I just needed to do that, and convince my family to do it. But yeah, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Asma. And we look forward to sharing your story with our audience in Africa and across the world. Thanks for honoring our invitation. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.